That's not what I read. The true sign of the apocalypse is someone that dumb has a law degree. Worse, if your name has the word sun in it, there's no excuse for not knowing how an eclipse works. But it's no surprise that Joy is the one who understands science. She's been on the science diet for years.
No, nothing really comes to mind. I was like, cha-ching. Listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be. This should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last. They call them Hitler, they call these things. America rejected them. And instead of coming back and saying, we lied, they instead are now doubling down. So let her keep doing it, because if she keeps that up, we're going to keep getting the Senate and probably the House and the White House, because people see right through your lies. So keep doing what you're doing. Game ball to Sunny.
Some television moments disappear the instant the credits roll. Others refuse to fade because they ignite a conversation far beyond the studio walls. This latest exchange involving Sunny Hostin, Greg Gutfeld, and Tyrus quickly became one of those moments. They weren't sharing the same set or debating face-to-face, yet their competing viewpoints collided in a way that fueled hours of online discussion. Before long, clips from both programs were spreading across social media, with viewers fiercely arguing over who made the stronger case. What began as another day of political commentary soon became one of the week's most talked about media stories.
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners.
The scene itself seemed routine at first. Sunny Hostin sat alongside her fellow panelists, introducing another discussion with the confidence viewers have come to expect. As she explained her perspective, the conversation followed the familiar rhythm of daytime television. But while that discussion unfolded, another studio was preparing its own response. Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus later examined many of the same topics from an entirely different perspective, setting the stage for an online debate that would eventually connect two broadcasts that never actually crossed paths.
Wow. I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate.
That's where the story became larger than either individual program. Rather than relying on raised voices or personal confrontations, Gutfeld approached the topic with sarcasm and pointed commentary, while Tyrus added observations drawn from his own experiences. Their reactions resonated with many viewers who felt the discussion deserved another perspective, while others strongly disagreed. Almost immediately, clips from both shows began circulating online, transforming separate television segments into one shared public conversation.
Sure, all that, and the price of butter. Sunny gets the game ball. If it wasn't for her, asking that question, it might have been a closer election. But when nothing really comes to mind, I was like, cha-ching. Listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be. This should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last. They call them Hitler, they call these things. America rejected them. And instead of coming back and saying, we lied, they instead are now doubling down.
To understand why the exchange attracted so much attention, it helps to look beyond a single broadcast. Over the years, Sunny Hostin has become known for delivering firm opinions on some of America's most divisive political and social issues. Supporters view that confidence as a strength, while critics argue it can leave little room for opposing viewpoints. That contrast has made her one of the most recognizable and frequently debated voices on daytime television.
Brains are small, but who's the dumbest one of all? True, none of them are in Mensa, but who's the most densa? Perhaps it's Sunny who mastered the art of making idiots look smart. Now, The View could ask a mirror who's the dumbest one of all, but there's no way that glass doesn't shatter. So instead, let's check out this clip from Monday's episode of The View when the ladies put their science caps on and discuss the solar eclipse.
The discussion that sparked this latest wave of reactions centered on crime, policing, and public safety, subjects that consistently generate passionate responses from audiences across the political spectrum. During the segment, Hostin presented her perspective on how those issues should be understood, while her co-hosts contributed to the broader conversation. Once excerpts reached social media, commentators from across the ideological landscape began dissecting not only the arguments themselves, but also the assumptions behind them. The conversation quickly expanded beyond television, becoming part of a much larger national debate.
No, nothing really comes to mind. I was like, Ching, listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be, this should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last, they call them Hitler, they call these things, America rejected them. And instead of coming back and saying, we lied, they instead are now doubling down. So let her keep doing it, because if she keeps that up, we're going to keep getting the Senate and probably the House and the White House, because people see right through your lies. So keep doing what you're doing. Game ball.
When Greg Gutfeld later addressed the topic, he focused on what he viewed as a disconnect between public messaging and everyday realities. Rather than attempting to replay the original discussion point by point, he questioned whether some political arguments adequately reflected the experiences of people living in communities most directly affected by crime. His commentary struck a chord with viewers who shared that concern, while others argued his conclusions oversimplified a far more complex issue. As with many politically charged debates, the audience was divided almost immediately.
I think that women, white women in particular, want to protect the patriarchy here because it's to their benefit. Yeah. They want to make sure that their husbands do well. They want to make sure that their sons do well. They want to make sure that their children do well. And they want to make sure that they do well. Most of the women in some of these studies are married white women, and they do fall in line with what their husbands are doing.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions?
Yeah.
Like you said, it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. But the problem with her is that she went full race.
Tyrus approached the conversation differently. Speaking in his characteristically measured style, he emphasized practical concerns surrounding public safety and community experiences. Instead of relying on dramatic rhetoric, he framed his points around questions he believed deserved greater attention, encouraging viewers to consider how public figures balance policy positions with personal security decisions. Whether audiences agreed with his conclusions or not, many viewers appreciated the conversational tone, while others challenged both his framing and his interpretation of the issues.
It's not even that. In The View, you don't need to find Trumpers. You need to fire your race baiters.
Yeah.
You need to fire the two races. You've had people. You had a McCain on there. You've had people on there before, and you ran them off. Mm-hmm. So the racist ones who want to stick to this, Whoopi and Sunny, and was it Bette Midler? What's her name? Yeah, broke-ass Bette Midler. Fire them and bring people in. Maybe you could get McCain to come back.
As clips from both programs continued circulating, the discussion evolved into something larger than the original television segments. Viewers began comparing not only the arguments, but also the contrasting presentation styles. Some praised Hostin for consistently defending her convictions despite criticism. Others believed Gutfeld and Tyrus had effectively highlighted weaknesses they saw in her reasoning. The debate itself became the story, illustrating how modern media discussions often continue long after the cameras stop rolling.
The problem is that you have to go after the racist people, and if the CEO goes, you know what, I'm not going to allow a woman on my show, or man, that will go after white America and talk about them like dogs. That doesn't represent our ideals or values for anyone. And get rid of those people, and this will clear up real quick. So do you have to actually look in the mirror and clean up your own backyard and get the racist people out? Because that's who you allowed in. You allowed black racist on TV who could just go all day and say anything about white people. And I guess lo and behold, they forgot that there's a lot of people at home, white people at home during the day, that are not watching your show anymore. So just clean it up.
Once the clips spread across social media, the conversation took on a life of its own. Short excerpts appeared on YouTube, TikTok, X, Facebook, and countless reaction channels, each highlighting a different moment depending on the creator's perspective. Some edits emphasized Hostin's comments, while others focused on Gutfeld's humor or Tyrus's observations. The result was a flood of competing narratives, with millions of viewers interpreting the same exchange through very different political and cultural lenses. In today's media landscape, a television segment rarely ends when the broadcast is over. It often begins a second life online.
Sausage maker Johnsonville is recalling more than 42,000 pounds of pork sausage for possible contamination with plastic fibers. Fortunately, authorities were able to track all 42,000 pounds to a single location in New York City.
That online reaction also revealed something bigger than one debate. Modern television doesn't simply compete for ratings anymore. It competes for clips, headlines, and viral moments. A few carefully edited seconds can shape public perception more powerfully than an entire hour-long program. As audiences shared, commented, and debated the footage, the discussion shifted away from the original topic and toward broader questions about credibility, communication, and persuasion. In many ways, the reaction became just as significant as the broadcast itself.
So that makes Sunny Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of them all. Because everyone knows the moon caused the eclipse, which is controlled by the view's gravitational pull.
The episode also highlighted the growing contrast between different styles of political commentary. Daytime panel shows often rely on collaborative discussion, while opinion-driven programs tend to emphasize direct critique and sharp counterarguments. Neither format appeals to everyone, but each attracts a loyal audience looking for a particular style of analysis. When those worlds intersect through viral clips, viewers are presented with competing interpretations of the same issues, forcing them to decide which arguments they find more convincing. That collision of formats is one reason these moments generate so much attention.
Of this, will she continue to do that when she is now one of them, Dana? And it is funny, she is so wrapped up in identity and she had no idea who she was.
Programs will continue to air, commentators will continue to disagree, and audiences will keep debating every major exchange. But every so often, a televised discussion captures enough attention to become part of a much larger cultural conversation. This was one of those moments, not because everyone reached the same conclusion, but because it reminded us how quickly a few minutes of television can spark days of nationwide debate.